Hey, what's up? It's Steve, aka the Sign Picker, and today I'm going to build a sign wall with all of my signs from the city of Chicago. To get started updating my sign wall with this theme, I want to be really clear about what I am going to be looking for today. So I've already pulled out a few signs to get me started. Really what I'm looking for in my collection are signs that have the city of Chicago printed down at the bottom of the sign. This is an old one, probably from the 1960s. This is the first city of Chicago sign that I had received. It's painted, almost feels like enamel, and it has a white background just like the front of the sign. These old city of Chicago signs oftentimes had the same colored background as was on the front. But that's really what I'm looking for, signs that say City of Chicago on the bottom. Here is a sign that you would see in the city of Chicago, but this one was not made by the Chicago Department of Transportation. This was made by the Illinois Department of Transportation because it is posted on an interstate highway. But being that the route of Interstate 55 goes right through the south of downtown and ends right by McCormick Place, this would be a contender for a sign that you would see in the city of Chicago. Here's another one that you would see within the city of Chicago, but it was not posted by the Chicago Department of Transportation. This one would have been posted by the Chicago Transit Authority. And it's a really awesome map of a culture bus stop, goes around all the museums in the downtown area. You can see Michigan Avenue is right along here. Here's the planetarium, Shedd Aquarium, Field Museum, all the way up to Lincoln Park Zoo over here. But this sign was posted by the CTA, and it does not have the city of Chicago printing down at the bottom of the sign, but still fits the theme because you would see this within the city of Chicago. And then completely separate thing, you have signs that were manufactured by the Chicago Motor Club. And Chicago Motor Club is down here, printed and embossed at the bottom of this sign. I really love this sign. It's kind of heavy. You can see here that the background behind slow, has a reflective surface that just goes behind here. So this predates the era where signs were reflective, that were very reflective when your headlights hit the sign at night. So this is kind of an early innovation when it comes to reflectivity. So how did the Chicago Motor Club contribute to street signs? How did they get in the game? Well, it predated an era where street signs were part of the government. Back when roads were just starting to become a thing and started to get really traveled and really busy, there were no standards for traffic safety and street signage and signs just like this. And it was kind of like a wild, wild west. Nobody really owned it. You had the Chicago Motor Club and other clubs like it posting street signs on their own. And it was all for good reason. They were doing it with all of the best intentions. But when it comes to something like street signs and standardization and public safety, you really have to have a very uniform strategy when it comes to posting signs and what they look like and how big they are and how far off the road and how tall are they. So when it comes to Chicago Motor Club signage, I tend to date all of those signs at the latest, the mid to late 60s. But something like this would probably be from the 1950s or 1960s. And the Chicago Motor Club really served areas all over Chicago and in the suburbs, all the way into Northwest Indiana, where there's actually a few Chicago Motor Club signs still posted out there. I have a few signs in my collection from the Chicago Motor Club that were originally posted all the way out in Culver, Indiana, which is a full hour east of the city. But for this wall, I'm going to exclude anything that was made by the Chicago Motor Club. I've probably got about 5 or 6 signs that were manufactured, sponsored by that organization. But I have another sign wall coming up where I will get some Chicago Motor Club signs up on the wall. All right, so with that, I'm going to start digging. When it comes to City of Chicago signs, that's going to be a very limited scope of signs that I have that are going to be right along in here. I know I don't have to go into these really big signs or any of the huge signs over here. I really just have to stay in this area that's behind me. So let's get digging. Okay, the very first sign that I pulled out here is a danger walking on driveway forbidden sign. And this would have been posted by the Chicago Transit Authority. The thing about this sign is I'm really not sure if it is an original or a reproduction. Pretty neat regardless, but I bought this at one of the old water tower buildings right on Michigan Avenue. There used to be a store in there called the City of Chicago store, and for a time that store actually sold old relics from the City of Chicago, including City of Chicago signs, which is what I'm looking for, and stuff from the Transit Authority. So that's where I picked this up. Still has the price tag of $35, which I paid for it. It does look like it has some wear on the back right here and right here. And given the age of this, before eBay really took off, before Marketplace really took off, this was from a time when sellers intentionally making reproductions of signs and trying to sell them as original wasn't as big of a deal as it is today. I probably bought this sign about 25 years ago, and that was before this whole fake manufacturing of old street signs and old signage and things like that really became a popular thing to do. So I'm hoping it's original. It looks like it's got some wear around the edges and on the back, but those guys who make those reproductions do a pretty good job of faking wear and tear on the sign to make it look original. But in either case, $35 for a sign like this, heck, I'd pay $35 for a fake. It's not like I paid $500 for it thinking it was original. It may be original, but anyway, enough on that. We'll go with that. I'll pull this out for this wall. Here's a very cool sign, push button, wait for walk signal. City of Chicago right down there at the bottom. These signs were all painted, and you could see where the stencil from the City of Chicago here, it bled a little bit off of that. The letters are a little fatter because of the bleeding of the paint. I love that this is a two-color sign with the weight in red right in the middle. Paint here, the black paint is really, really glossy. It's a non-reflective sign. Flip it around the back. It's black background. Probably was originally white. You can see some white through here. So what I'm guessing is that the posts that it was mounted to, which was probably a traffic signal pole or a mast arm, was painted black. And so they painted the back side of the sign black as well to match the traffic signal pole. But that's what the City of Chicago does. They're so attentive to detail and aesthetics that they would paint the back side of a sign to match the pole. Shout out to the Chicago Department of Transportation for doing things like that to make the city look really, really awesome. It's also got hello, my name is sticker with some various graffiti on the back, which I think is a cool added touch. The other really neat thing about that sign is it's 18 by 24, which is really, really big. Normally those push button for walk signal signs are this big. Huge size differentiation there, but probably comes at a time before the standardization of this style of sign was this large or this small. And so you have an 18 by 24, but Chicago doing its thing. Here's a neat one from the Illinois Tollway, and this is not a City of Chicago sign, but definitely something that you would see within the City of Chicago. This is the old logo of the Illinois Tollway. It's a completely different look now. And what I love about this sign, multiple things I love about this sign. I love the deep green color. I love this old logo from the Illinois Tollway that is enclosed here in the shape of an eye. I love that this sign is not rounded on the corners. That thing will just take your eye out. And the other thing that'll take your eye out is this really pointed arrow, which is missing one of the rivets, or there was a bolt or some kind of mounting hardware probably that went through here. Originally, I believe this sign was posted like this with the arrow up, but the arrow is a completely separate piece. And so that allowed the highway department to configure the arrow based on if it was an on-ramp, if it was straight ahead, if it was directly to the right, and they would position the arrow straight in the center of the sign. And you can see that there's an imprint of where the arrow originally was, which tells me that it was originally straight. I also love the tapered arrow. This gets into really specific design aesthetics. But I love the tapered arrow where it starts wide, ends up a little skinnier here at the top, and then flares out again for the head of the arrow. There's the back of it, really rough back, really gray, but I love this sign. I picked this sign up in Northwest Indiana, And that's the neat thing about the positioning of Chicago, is that some of these old relics actually end up just to the east in the state of Indiana. So pull this out for the wall. Not going to go up on the wall, but here is a snow route sign from the village of Oak Lawn, which is a Chicago suburb. I love these snow route signs. I love the design of them. Snow route at the top in white letters on top of a blue background. Sometimes I've seen these snow route signs on a red background instead of blue. Pretty clean sign. It has been mounted in the wild. I could see where there was some mounting hardware here, but overall this thing survived many Chicago winters. But because it's not in the city of Chicago proper, I'm going to hang on to this, and I'm not going to post this one up on the wall today. Here is an amazing taxi sign from the city of Chicago. It says City of Chicago down here, has Jane Byrne, the mayor of Chicago at the time. And man, what an amazing sign. There's so much going on in here, a lot of type, a lot of places, a lot of cool locations called out within the city of Chicago, the Chicago River, the near north side, the Gold Coast. Here's Lake Michigan over here. Look for the orange flag. So you got this deep orange on here with the blue, which is really great. I probably unintentionally, Chicago Bears colors right there. That's the city of Chicago, man. Just cool stuff happens over here. Look at the prices for these fares. $1.50, 50 cents. O'Hare, to and from O'Hare, 12 bucks. You had to be a baller to get out to O'Hare. But very cool with the graphics and the illustrations and the map, and the font on this sign is just amazing and nostalgic. So just a lot of cool stuff going on there. Cherry on top. It's got a white background. And overall, this sign is in really, really great shape. So most definitely this thing is going up on the City of Chicago wall. Like I said, I got my first City of Chicago sign back when I was, probably in my upper single digits of age, and that no parking sign was the first one that I'd received. And because of where I grew up in Northwest Indiana, just outside of Chicago, probably 40 minutes outside of the city, I was just always kind of obsessed with the big city life growing up. But Chicago was almost like, I didn't go there very often growing up. It was almost still like a world away. But being that I was into street signs, I really just loved the City of Chicago signage. Here is one that's actually made of fiberglass, and I really don't know the history of that. I know a lot of departments would try out fiberglass either for temporary signs, so maybe like some construction related stuff, but this one does not appear to be a temporary sign. They may have also tried out fiberglass from a cost saving standpoint, maybe a longevity standpoint. But here's one for the lakefront bike route. I love the deep green guide signage. It does have City of Chicago down at the bottom. It's got an arrow on it. It's got the bicycle. So again, just, man, Chicago's just got some cool signage going on. White background here, some paint, and it's chipping apart. You can see there's a big piece over here, but the front of that is looking pretty good. My old college roommate had a friend who still lived in Chicago, and the friend's dad worked for the City of Chicago, so was able to get a hold of just a couple of signs for me. This was one of them, and I really love that sign. The whole point of me doing sign walls, pulling all these signs out, going through all of them, is to reconnect with a lot of the signs that I have. Otherwise, all of my signs just stay buried in here. So the reason for the sign wall is I'm able to pick a theme, find signs that match that theme, and pull them out. So I can put them up on the wall so I can actually display them for a period of time. Otherwise, they just stay buried in here, and I kind of forget what I have. And I'm able to reconnect with them when I pick a theme like the City of Chicago wall. I'm able to pull signs out for that theme and group them together. That's my best way for me to stay connected with the collection. So here is one that was not made by the City of Chicago, although it may have been. City of Chicago was just not printed down at the bottom. But this is my second sign that has Mayor Byrne printed on it, and it's all about the Block Cleanup Award of 1982. So check that out. Even in 1982, they were making signs like this. Signs that were not reflective, has this really shiny, glossy coat of paint on it. Although this is not a public safety sign, so it's not as important that it needed to be reflective. It really didn't. But look at the design of that. They've got a different font that's outside of the norm for street signage. It's got the cool rounded type on it. It's got the tree going on there. It's got the mayor's name, white background. Man, this is so Chicago. Chicago's a lot like New York. They just pave their own lane, do their own thing. And as a result, at least when it comes to street signage and a lot of other things, they just do some really, really neat stuff. Okay, here's a pretty basic sign, and not to minimize this sign, but I do love the message on it, two-way traffic ahead. You know, this is one that kind of falls in between a regulatory lane control sign as well as a warning sign. When you get into two-way traffic, normally that's when a one-way road somehow becomes a two-way road. And at that point, you're using a diamond-shaped yellow sign with two arrows, one going up and one going down. So this is kind of to warn you of that change in traffic pattern coming ahead. But I don't know, maybe some of you traffic engineers out there who really know the manual can clarify as to why this one is a regulatory sign versus a warning sign. But anyway, this one is neat to me because it's got the more elongated font on it. Still the Highway Gothic font's the official font, but it's the skinnier version, the more condensed version of it. I'm guessing that's just to fit the message in and better balance the sign, because Chicago really pays attention to the aesthetics of their street signage layout and the typography. There's the city of Chicago right down at the bottom. This one's actually a silver background, so that tells me that this one came later. I would say maybe this one is from the, I would say maybe the 80s or early 90s. It does have a reflective surface on the back of that. And of course, there's the city of Chicago marking down at the bottom. I am literally through the first section of these 12 by 18 signs, and I've already pulled out so much stuff. I don't think Chicago signs in my collection are going to expand very far beyond the sign wall. So it's okay that I'm pulling out a lot of stuff right here, because this is where everything is going to be. Here is something that you may see in the city of Chicago. You may see it outside of the city. I would guess that this is something that was posted closer to Midway Airport, but it is a neat sign. Midway Airport is definitely rooted as part of Chicago culture. So I am going to pull this one out as a possibility for this wall. Okay, here is a sign from the CTA. I purchased this at the same place where I purchased the other red danger sign at the City of Chicago store. Pretty clean, and it's pretty not worn out. I got this one for $35. And so again, I'm not quite sure if this one is a original or a reproduction. It's got some markings on the back that would indicate that maybe it was posted out there. And again, when I purchased these, they were from before the time when all these people are creating these reproduction signs and trying to sell them as original. Got the 4 grommets in the sides, pointed corners. I have these on the back because I had this inside my house on a shelf at one point and I didn't want it to scratch up the wall. I'm going to pull it out as a contender possibility for this wall. Okay, those are the flat signs for 12 by 18s. These right here are embossed. I'm not even going to go through those because what I'm looking for is that City of Chicago sign. I already know that I don't have any signs that are embossed that have City of Chicago printed at the bottom, unlike the Chicago Motor Club, which is embossed at the bottom. So I'm going to skip over this right here, and I'm going to move to these signs right here. Here's one for I-94. You would see this in the Chicago area, so we'll pull this one out as a potential. Here's Indiana Toll Road. So you may see this sign in the city of Chicago, particularly as you're exiting the city of Chicago, maybe on the south side on guide signage that takes you out to the Indiana Toll Road. And those of you sign enthusiasts know that there's a relic right on Stony Island that has one of these on it. It's a big, huge green guide sign that points you to the toll road and all the interstates that lead out of Chicago and into Indiana, and that sign has been there for a really long time. I'm really hoping that somebody preserves it. I'm hoping they don't just take it down and recycle it. I'm not really sure if they understand what they have there and what that sign means to us sign enthusiasts, but I'm going to pull this out just in case I need some variation on the wall in terms of the shape of the sign, the color of the sign that says Indiana. This may go up, it may not. Okay, no truck sign, no trucks over 5 tons gross weight. Bam, right there at the bottom, City of Chicago. This is a flea market find, 15 bucks for this sign. It's classic Chicago. Chicago does its own thing. They said, you know what? We're printing that right on top of the truck and the no sign, as opposed to putting a separate plate down at the bottom. They still have these posted out there within the city. Flip it around, you got the classic City of Chicago white background as well. Cool rust going on around the edges. So it's a heavier sign too. For being a flat sign, it's pretty heavy. US Highway 12 goes right through the bottom of the city, connects Northwest Indiana going into the city. They're on the south side, so pull it out just in case I need that on the wall. All right, this one you would see in the City of Chicago. It's for the Lake Michigan Circle Tour. Really, really awesome sign. This was an eBay find. If I'm getting really, really particular, I would not put this on the wall because this one actually wasn't in the City of Chicago. This one was up in Michigan, as indicated by the sticker on the background for MDOT. Having said that, it is a sign that you would see within the City of Chicago, potentially, even though this one wasn't actually there. So I'll pull it out as a just in case I need it type of thing. This one looks like the bottom bolt just ripped right out of the sign. So obviously something like that is why this ended up in the recycle scrap pile instead of being resheeted and made into a new sign, because it is in pretty good shape as far as it not being bent and things like that. But whatever, it's in my collection now. The sticker on the back indicates that it was posted in 1998, so it's got some age to it. Speed hump ahead, City of Chicago. This warning sign is going to be posted where the city has put speed bumps, normally in areas where they're trying to curb crime, so cars can't escape very easily. If they go over these speed bumps too fast, they're gonna bottom out. So it's really installed as a crime deterrent, but at least they give the other law-abiding motorists a warning with a sign like this. For as beat up as this sign looks, there's looks like it might have even been posted underneath another sign. Looks like it's been out there, at least the front does. But on the back, none of the holes have been punched through. There's holes here, here, and here, and here. This is where they would have been posted. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here. This might just be a new old stock, but for all the time that it's spent in storage, it got some pretty cool nicks and bruises on it, but definitely fits the theme of the wall, being that it is from City of Chicago. Right now I'm flipping through. The first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at the bottom of the sign just to make sure I don't miss anything from the City of Chicago with that marking at the bottom. These are all embossed, so I'm not going to go through those. So I'm going to get right into here because I know I've got a speed limit sign in here. Okay, here is a City of Chicago speed limit 30. Few interesting things about this sign. So I don't know what's going on over here, where it almost looks like it used to be an 8 maybe, and maybe they took that off. I don't know what's going on there, but interesting font on that 30. That's not the normal highway Gothic font, and even this one looks a little wider. But it does have the City of Chicago at the bottom. Because that City of Chicago is there, it pushes up the messaging. So this is a little closer, speed is a little closer to the top than you would normally see. White background, so this guy's been out there for a while. This sign is not reflective. Really neat sign. This is probably one of my favorite, most basic speed limit signs that I have. Here's a neat one. I love the messaging on there. The word pedestrians, they really squeeze that one in there. Turning vehicles yield to pedestrians from the City of Chicago. White background right there. You could see the remnants from some other signs on the back of here. Might actually be some sign that's in my collection. I could see a S, T, an O, there's a C there. That looks like an R. I'll have to figure out if that's a sign that some of the paint got pulled off in storage. This is actually a single-sided sign. So I believe I previously featured this sign in a past video where I pulled out all of my signs that related to traffic signals. If not, it kind of would be a contender for that wall. You could go take a look at that video. Look at the squished 2 in there. It's almost like they took an O and turned it sideways to fit in there, because it's not a perfectly round O, it's more sideways. Here's a sign potentially from that area, but not from the city of Chicago. Down at the bottom, it says Cook County Highway Department. Cook County is the county that Chicago is in Illinois. This is actually the first diamond-shaped warning sign that I ever purchased. This was from an antique store. I think I got it for $10 at the time, but not from the city of Chicago proper, because that would have the city of Chicago marking at the bottom and not Cook County Highway Department. This is probably something that's more rural outside of Chicago. Okay, here is my most recent city of Chicago acquisition. Got this for $15 off Marketplace. It's a smaller sign, parking, valet loading tow zone, something that you'd see outside a hotel or something like that. White background, classic city of Chicago, and Chicago always thinking things through. They put multiple holes in these sign blanks. So here on the sides, because a lot of these signs are side mounted. And I believe this one was. I thought I saw some post marking indications that this would have been a side mounted sign, but not reflective, probably something from the 70s or so. And those signs really just hold up, even though they don't reflect very well. That coating that they would put on these signs holds up for many, many years. Here's a porcelain enamel East 81st Street sign from the city of Chicago. These are the old style of street name signs where the mounting bracket is part of the sign itself. Has some spider eggs going on in there. Really, really durable, really heavy. You don't see a lot of these anymore. I don't know if anything is posted. The city of Chicago is really good about cleaning up some of their old relics, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of these old street name signs are no longer posted within the city. But great color. I love that yellow. And the green here is probably painted to match the color of the light posts that it was mounted to. It still has the old washers embedded in there. So this is my only one like this. It's pretty neat. All right, that's it. I pulled all of those City of Chicago signs out, all the signs that you may see within the city, even if it wasn't posted by the Chicago Department of Transportation. I'm gonna pull out this wall, which was my multiple arrows wall, and up goes Chicago. Okay, there you go. It's my sign wall from the city of Chicago. I managed to get a bunch of signs up here. There's still a bunch of signs back here that I did pick that I did not get to put up on the wall because they won't fit. But just about every sign up here was manufactured by the Chicago Department of Transportation. The ones that were not were this sign here from the CTA, the I-55, which would have been manufactured and posted by the Illinois Department of Transportation. Also the CTA Culture bus stop sign up there. The Mayor Byrne block cleanup sign, I think that was manufactured, posted by the City of Chicago Street Department, but it does not have City of Chicago written down at the bottom. And what's really neat, when I do these sign walls, I pull out a lot of signs that have different colors, different shapes, different sizes, because when I put everything up here, I want there to be a very diverse display of all of the signs that I have. I'm also thinking about how are all these signs going to stay up there. When I was building this wall, a few of the signs did tumble and fall onto the ground. I had to put them back up. So when it comes to this I-55 sign and this speed hump sign, both of those signs are leaning up on the wall and weighted at the very bottom points of those signs. So they're a little unstable. So I used a sign like this one and this one to kind of hold those signs up into place. So it's a little bit of sign wall engineering intel for you. But if you like this sign wall and you do want to follow along with all the sign wall content that I post, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That really helps me in terms of getting this content out to others who really enjoy traffic signs and traffic safety. You can also follow me over on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, wherever you consume your content, and I will see you in the next video.